Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night feeling a strange presence in your bedroom or experienced that inexplicable weight pressing on your body as you tried to sleep? Perhaps you've noticed that even after 8 full hours of rest, you awaken more tired than when you went to bed. These signs are no coincidence, and Padre Pio, one of the most powerful saints of the Church, revealed something that will completely transform your spiritual life. What I'm about to disclose is so serious that many priests hesitate to speak of it openly. It is a revelation that Padre Pio shared with only a few of his closest followers, but that urgently needs to be known by all the faithful. Imagine that, at this very moment while you watch this video, there is something in your room literally draining your spiritual energy, erecting an invisible barrier between you and God, making your prayers less effective and your nights less restorative. Padre Pio, with his extraordinary mystical gifts and direct connection to the divine, could see what our eyes cannot. He perceived how certain common objects in our homes act like antennas for negative forces, especially at night, when we are most spiritually vulnerable. The enemy works in darkness, Padre Pio used to say, and he uses what we consider harmless to invade our homes and disturb our peace. Alarmingly, you likely have that object not only somewhere in your home but right next to your bed, and each night it remains there, your soul drifts further from divine protection. Many people come to me in desperation, reporting unexplained health issues, persistent financial struggles, unending family conflicts, and a constant sense that something is very wrong in their lives. When I ask about their nighttime habits and what they keep beside their beds, the answer is almost always the same. And suddenly everything makes sense. A woman named Maria told me she suffered from terrible nightmares for more than 10 years. Doctors, medication, and therapy did nothing to help. Then she discovered Padre Pio's secret and removed that object from her bedside. The very first night, she slept as soundly as she hadn't in years, and within a week, her life was completely transformed. What you are about to learn is not mere advice. It is an urgent spiritual warning, and it may well mean the difference between a life of blessings and one plagued by constant spiritual blockages. This knowledge remained hidden for a long time, but now, more than ever, we need this protection. In a world increasingly distant from God, we must ensure that our rest, when we are most vulnerable, is a time of spiritual restoration, not an invitation to negative forces. Prepare yourself for a revelation that will transform your nights and consequently your days. What Padre Pio discovered about your bedroom will change everything you thought you knew about spiritual protection. Before I reveal which objects must never be kept near your bed, I ask you to do something very important. Write right now in the comments, "My bedroom is sealed with divine protection." Do not underestimate the power of these words. By declaring our intention to guard our spirits, we begin to create a barrier against negative energies. Write it now, and then continue watching as I disclose Padre Pio's guidance for safeguarding our sleep and our souls. Padre Pio was no ordinary saint. Many know him by the stigmata, the wounds of Christ he bore for 50 years. But few understand his extraordinary spiritual sensitivity. He could discern the state of a person's soul at a glance and identify negative energies in objects and places. This gift allowed him to perceive what eludes ordinary vision, especially regarding our sleep environment. To grasp the importance of this revelation, we must first understand what happens to us during sleep. Padre Pio explained that sleep is not merely physical rest, but a moment of profound spiritual significance. During sleep, he said, our soul remains active, but our consciousness becomes vulnerable, as if the defenses we maintain by day are lowered, making us susceptible to external influences, both positive and negative. This vulnerability makes the care of our sleep environment absolutely essential. The bedroom, particularly the area around the bed, is not just a physical space, but an energetic and spiritual field that directly influences our souls during rest. By sleeping near inappropriate objects, we essentially invite certain energies into our most intimate sphere. Sister Josefina, one of Padre Pio's closest confidants, reported that he frequently counseled those suffering from recurring nightmares, insomnia, or chronic fatigue to examine what they kept beside their beds. He could identify the root cause without ever visiting their homes, she said. He just knew which objects interfered with that soul's spiritual rest. One striking case involved Leonardo, a man who traveled more than 500 kilometers to consult Padre Pio. Leonardo endured such intense nocturnal terrors that he feared closing his eyes. Doctors found nothing physically wrong, and sleeping pills only made matters worse. When he finally spoke with Padre Pio, he was stunned by the response. "Remove that gift you keep on your bedside table and burn it." Leonardo had said nothing about any particular object, but on returning home he recalled an old figurine given by a coworker that sat on his nightstand. He heeded Padre Pio's counsel, destroyed the figurine, and that very night slept deeply for the first time in years. What makes this revelation so powerful is that we are not talking about occult or evil artifacts. Padre Pio warned against everyday items we assume harmless or even positive, objects brought into our homes unexamined as gifts or souvenirs, whose deeper spiritual significance we fail to grasp. It is important to understand that Padre Pio did not speak from personal opinion. His intimate divine connection gave him clarity rivaled by few saints. He could literally see the spiritual bonds certain objects forged and how they disrupted a person's relationship with God, especially during sleep. The link between sleep and spirituality is only now being explored by modern science, but spiritual wisdom has known it for millennia. In ancient Christian traditions, the moment of falling asleep was considered sacred, a transition when the soul becomes more receptive to both divine grace and negative influences. It is no accident that many traditional Catholic prayers are specifically intended for bedtime, creating a spiritual shield for those vulnerable hours. Numerous saints and mystics, not only Padre Pio, cautioned believers to maintain a spiritually clean rest environment. Saint Teresa of Avila, for instance, advised her nuns to keep only devotional items near their beds. Saint John of the Cross spoke of sleep as a small rehearsal for death, when the soul partially slips from conscious control and is more exposed to the spiritual realm. Padre Pio's counsel is especially urgent today, in an age of unprecedented spiritual confusion. Objects from countless traditions enter our homes through globalization and commerce. We buy, receive, and accumulate items without knowing their true histories or spiritual meanings, then place them carelessly in our most private spaces, including beside our beds. Padre Pio's wisdom reminds us to exercise spiritual discernment over our environment, especially our resting place. We must be aware of what we allow into our most vulnerable space, recognizing that every object carries not only physical, but also energetic and spiritual dimensions that can either harmonize or disturb our connection with God. In the weeks after this teaching spread among his followers, Padre Pio witnessed remarkable transformations. They returned with a new light in their eyes, he said. It was as though a weight had been lifted from their souls. This renewal came not only from better sleep, but from a reconnection with the divine that had been blocked by subtle yet powerful influences. It is important to stress that Padre Pio never sought to instill fear or superstition. His guidance arose from love and wisdom. "Fear not," he would say, "for evil has no power where Christ's light is invited in." Now comes the moment to reveal the object that must never lie next to your bed, the one that silently disturbs your rest and weakens your spiritual bond: electronic devices. Padre Pio warned that during sleep, items like your cell phone act not just as physical objects, but as energy portals that profoundly affect your spiritual field. Technology itself is not evil, he explained, but it can become an instrument that distances the soul from God precisely when we are most vulnerable. He taught that these devices function like antennas, not only for electromagnetic waves, but for spiritual frequencies that interfere with our capacity to commune with the divine. He saw clearly how the habit of sleeping with a phone beside your head was producing a generation spiritually exhausted, with an invisible barrier between their souls and divine grace. Like erecting a cell tower in the heart of a temple, constant interference regardless of conscious awareness. The enemy is subtle, Padre Pio warned. He needs no grand gestures. Small, constant intrusions are enough to weaken faith and alienate the soul from God. Modern studies confirm that over 70% of people sleep with their phones within arm's reach, and more than 40% keep them less than a meter from their heads. We are literally embracing what Padre Pio identified as one of the greatest blockers of divine grace during sleep. His warning extended beyond phones to televisions, computers, tablets, any device emitting not only electromagnetic radiation, but serving as a gateway to content that agitates the mind and disturbs the soul's peace. Your bedroom must be a sanctuary, he insisted, not a center of entertainment or work. During sleep, our souls enter a state akin to deep meditation or contemplative prayer when conscious barriers drop. Surrounding that vulnerable soul with electronic devices is like casting it into a storm of spiritual noise, making true rest nearly impossible. Padre Pio was particularly concerned about children and adolescents. Their souls are soft as wax, he said, easily impressed and disturbed by such influences. He recounted cases of youngsters plagued by night terrors, nightmares, and behavioral issues that vanished once devices were removed from their rooms. What then should we do? Padre Pio offered clear, practical guidance. Ideally, no electronic device should remain in the bedroom at night. Charge your phone in another room, remove the TV entirely, store computers and tablets elsewhere. In place of these gadgets, he recommended objects that elevate the soul and invite divine protection. A crucifix on the wall, an image of the Virgin Mary, holy water beside the bed, a rosary under the pillow. Surround yourself with things that lift your soul toward God, he urged, especially when you are most spiritually vulnerable. For those who insist on keeping a phone for emergencies, he suggested a compromise. Put it in airplane mode and place it at least 3 meters away from the bed. Even so, he stressed, the ideal is complete absence of such devices from the sacred space of rest. He also recommended a digital curfew. Designate a nightly time, at least 1 hour before sleep, to power down all electronics, allowing mind and spirit to quiet and turn toward the divine before slumber. This revelation from Padre Pio is not merely about physical health or improved sleep quality, though those benefits certainly follow. It is fundamentally about protecting and nurturing our spiritual life by removing subtle yet powerful barriers that stand between our souls and God. It is about transforming sleep from mere physical rest into genuine spiritual renewal. The testimonies of those who followed his counsel are both striking and consistent. People report not only deeper, more restorative sleep, but also a spiritual awakening, prayers filled with life, heightened sensitivity to divine matters, a more vibrant faith, and a lasting inner peace, even amid adversity. As Padre Pio himself declared, once you remove these interferences, you open a direct channel for divine grace to flow into your soul during sleep. Now that you know Padre Pio's teaching on electronics by the bedside, you must grasp its practical implications for your spiritual life. It is not just about sleeping better, though that will certainly occur. It is about a profound transformation in your relationship with God and the quality of your inner life. This knowledge holds the power to revolutionize your spiritual experience, emotional well-being, and even your relationships. Reflect for a moment on all the nights you lay restless, troubled by racing thoughts, all the times you awoke in the middle of the night for no apparent reason, gripped by anxiety or anguish. How many mornings you rose exhausted as though your sleep had offered no true restoration. If you're like most people, these troubles are far too common, and now you know one of their chief causes. The most immediate effect of removing electronics from your bedroom will be a significant improvement in sleep quality. Padre Pio explained that undisturbed, natural sleep follows divinely ordained cycles designed to restore not only the body, but the soul. When those cycles are honored, true inner healing takes place. But the deepest benefit is spiritual. Many report that after a few weeks sleeping in an electronics-free environment, they begin to feel a renewed sensitivity to God's presence. Prayers that once felt mechanical come alive. Bible reading grows richer and more meaningful. A spiritual clarity emerges, often described as a veil lifting from the soul. Maria, a 68-year-old woman, long plagued by chronic insomnia, followed Padre Pio's advice to remove her TV and phone from the bedroom. On the third night, she said, "I had a dream of Our Lady so vivid that I awoke in tears of joy. It was as if my soul could finally breathe during sleep, free from all that interference." That testimony is far from rare. Padre Pio taught that during true healthy sleep, our souls may receive divine inspirations, emotional healings, and even spiritual messages through dreams, just as saints and biblical figures did. But that subtle spiritual static from electronics can easily block such communication in our rest environment. Another significant impact appears in family life. When entire households adopt the practice of keeping bedrooms electronics-free, many observe remarkable improvements in home harmony. Children grow calmer and more emotionally stable. Couples experience deeper reconnection. Conflicts fade. A family that genuinely rests in God, he explained, wakes with more love and patience for one another. Perhaps the most surprising effect is the boost to our spiritual resilience against temptation and negative influences. Padre Pio noted that people who slept with electronics nearby were strikingly more prone to negative thoughts, destructive impulses, and even depression. Sleep disturbed by such intrusions leaves the soul fragile and vulnerable to the enemy's suggestions by day. Conversely, those who created a spiritually protected rest environment reported a renewed inner strength. "It is like having a spiritual shield throughout my day," one young man testified. "The same temptations that once knocked me down now feel weak and easy to resist." Padre Pio's teaching is particularly urgent today, when anxiety, depression, and spiritual emptiness reach epidemic levels. Many seek complex solutions, therapy, medication, elaborate spiritual practices, when part of the remedy may be as simple as creating a rest environment that honors the soul's sacred vulnerability during sleep. Modern science is only beginning to validate what Padre Pio discerned spiritually. Recent studies show that exposure to electromagnetic fields during sleep significantly alters brain patterns, reduces melatonin production, and disrupts deep sleep phases, precisely those linked to psychic and spiritual restoration. Padre Pio's invitation is unmistakable. Transform your bedroom into a true sanctuary. Remove electronics and replace them with symbols that elevate your soul to God. Institute a digital curfew at least an hour before bedtime, using that time for prayer, spiritual reading, or silent contemplation. It is a simple change, yet it demands resolve in a world ever more reliant on technology. But the rewards are extraordinary: spiritual awakening, deeper inner peace, fortified resistance to negative influences, and a renewed capacity to feel God's loving presence in your life. If this teaching has touched your heart, and you recognize that electronic devices by your bed may be affecting your spiritual life, it is time to act. Do not let Padre Pio's revelation remain mere information. Turn it into concrete change. And if you wish to fully shield your home from negative influences, be sure to watch our next video. Padre Pio, never paint your house this color, or you will invite poverty and misfortune. There, we will unveil another startling discovery of Padre Pio about how certain wall colors can literally attract energies of scarcity and hardship into your family's life. People have completely changed their financial fortunes by following this simple yet powerful advice from the saint who saw beyond the spiritual veil.